Hi and welcome back to the second part of this video where we are butchering our chickens. These are the 3 days in between the two butcherings, and I have had these 3 chickens in a saltwater brine, and now I'm putting them onto this so I can smoke them in a moment. The smoker is preheating right now, so the chickens will just stay here for about 40 minutes before I will put them in the smoker. And in the meantime I will make some more broth. In these days I have made maybe 50 liters of broth, I think. And in this one I will put a carcass and a lot of the legs and some other bones in. And then I will fill it up with water, and I'll put in some apple cider vinegar. This is some of my homemade from last year. And I'll also put in some salt. And because I already have made so many batches, it is kind of preset on about 3.5 hours. You don't have to boil it for so long in an instant pot, but I like to get the most out of the bones. And now the smoker is ready, so I'm carrying out all of the chickens. I thought that I could maybe have 3 at a time because I have 4 shelves, but they were just a little too tall, so I'll just start with the 2 of them, and then afterwards I'll put the last one in. And we cut them up in the front so that they could be a little more flat, but they were still too big. The next time I'll smoke them, I will not cut them up, and then I can have 2 on each shelf instead, so I can have 4 at the same time. Now I will go on with cutting up all of the rest of the raw chickens So first off, I am making my knives a little sharper. I do that a lot, so they are always sharp when I have to cut open all of the chickens. The little black one I use if there's a possibility for me to cut into some bones. And the two blue ones are just really sharp and really good to cut out all of the meat. So I'll just take about 2 chickens at a time, and then I have this white top where I can put all of the meat inside and then put them into the fridge again before I will pack them up into Ziploc bags. I'm always starting with cutting off the wings, because then there's more room to do the rest of the things, because the wings are kind of in the way. And then I'm cutting off the end of the wing. There's almost no meat on that little bony thing, so I'll just put that into the broth and then save the rest of the wing for eating. And the next thing that I do is I'm cutting off both of the legs, and I find it easiest when I start with cutting a little and then I take the other hand and push the leg out, and then I can cut all the way around and in between the 2 joints, so I won't cut into the bone again. And then there's this little line where I can just cut between the thigh and the drumstick. So that is really easy, and you'll never cut into the bones if you do it like this. And once again, I'm just cutting the skin first here and then following the cut around. And then I can just push it out and go in between the joints again. And I'm cutting the meat on the back side. And this line is kind of a little fatty line with some of the tissue there, and that's where you can just follow with the knife. And it's kind of the same when I'm taking out the bone from the thigh. There's also this line I can just follow with my knife and just cut around the bone. And this way it's also really easy to take out this bone, and then I can cook it like if it was a breast without any bones in it. I like the chicken breast best without the skin, so I'm removing that at first, and then we'll just fry it up so it's get really crispy. And then I'll cut off both of the breasts, and it's easy. The easiest way is just to cut down by the breastbone on each side of the bone, and then You can also follow a line on the outside to cut it out there, or you can just put your knife in and follow around where the ribs are. I don't find it easy to cut from this side. I find it more easy to cut from kind of the bottom side. And there's the line you can follow around. Then just push the knife down there. Because there is a bone up on the top side of the breast, a collarbone, and it's not easy to get the knife in and around that one. That's why I'm always cutting from the bottom side. And now that I'm done with those 2 chickens, I have some broth that I will process from yesterday, and I also have all of the bones and the rest of the meat that I have made the broth from, and I will package that up for the dogs, and most of the bones will go out to the chickens, or the hens again. They like to eat that. But because this is from yesterday, it's cold and really gelatinous, all of the broth, and then on top all of the fat has collected. So I'm just trying to get the fat off, and then I will freeze it into smaller Ziploc bags or put some of it into Tupperware and just use it in the next couple of weeks. And it is really nice and thick and with a lot of collagen in, so it's really healthy to use this in your diet. And now that I'm going to process it, I will put all of the broth into a pot and just reheat it a little, just to make it more fluid again. And then I'll put it into jars, and I will water bath it. We don't have pressure canners in Denmark, so we can only water bath can it, but that is okay as well, as long as you do it for a long enough time and you will reheat it before using it. It has to boil for at least 10 minutes when you're going to use it, and that is not a problem because most of the time it will be used maybe in rice or in a soup or something like that, so it will always be really good reheated again. And to get my jars ready, I have just boiled some water in my kettle, and then I'm pouring it into the lids and into the glasses, the jars. You could also have a pot of boiling water where you could put them in to sterilize them. Some say that this isn't necessary because you'll also boil them for a long time when the broth is in it, but I'll always do it just to be sure. So now that the broth has reheated a little, it's not hot, it's just so that it's more fluid-like now, so it's easier to get into the glasses. So pour so much in, so there's about 1 to 1.5 centimeters headroom, and then I will clean the rims and put the lids on, and then I'll put it in my water bother canner later on. And I have this really big electric water bath canner that is really nice to have, so I can just put the right temperature and time on it, and it will almost just do its own thing. I don't have to go and watch it all the time like if it was on the stove. Plus I can have something other boiling on the stove while this one is going. So I'm really glad that I bought this one last year. Then it's important to have enough water in when it's water bathing. It has to be about 2 to 3 centimeters above the tallest glass. And I'm also putting in some vinegar just to, because the water is really hard and there's a lot of residue in it. So that will help that there's not so much on the jars when they are finished. So now I'm just turning it on, and I will take the temperature up to the maximum, and that is about 100 degrees Celsius. And then I will just turn the timer to about 2 hours or so, because I have to watch it until it boils, and then I can set the timer at least 40 minutes, but I'm doing it between 1 hour and 1.5 hours just to be sure. And then in the meantime I can heat up some more of the broth, and this time I'm heating it up a little more because now the water in the water bath canner is warm, so it has to be about the same temperature inside the glasses and in the water of the water bath. Now I have packaged up all of this for Holly, and I also made a few bags for my sister's dog and my parents' dog. And this is the biggest bones that the chickens will get. And this is how it looks in the water bath canner now that it is finished. And I'll just remove all of the glasses so they can cool off until the next day. And now the next batch of broth is done, and this is how it looks when it has been boiling for a few hours under pressure. And so I have the sieve on top of my pot, and I will just put all of the bones in there so they can drip off, and then I will put the bones in another bowl, and then I will also sieve the broth because there's also always a lot of little bones and skin in there. So this is how it looks, and then when it has cooled off, I can remove the bigger bones and separate it out and onto the smaller bags so that my dog can get a lot of yummy stuff. I will just put it in the freezer, and then she can get it maybe once or twice a week. And now the first batch of the smoked chickens are ready. And just look how delicious they look. When they have cooled off, I will separate it all and cut the meat into smaller pieces and freeze it. And this is the second batch of the broth that has been water bathed. And this is just the dinner that first night. So it was nice to have an easy dinner because I was really tired. And then the next day I am preparing 4 more chickens to go into the smoker, and this time I put some mustard on them and some homemade barbecue sauce, and then a lot of different spices. So they will just stay in here for the most of the day. And this is how they look when they are done. Really nice and dark, and they have a nice taste and a really good texture, really moist and soft. And I'm also already making some more broth this day. I think this is the second pot of broth this day, and I'm just doing it the same way as yesterday, where I will sift it and cool it off, and then package it to the dogs. And then here I'll show how I do it. There's a lot of meat, but there's also some bones, and there's no problem for the dogs to eat these bones because they have boiled for so long, so they're really soft and you can just squish them between your fingers. But if Holly gets a lot of bone, she will have a hard time pooping the next day. So that's why she doesn't get that much of bones. It's mostly the meat and some of the skins and tissue and so on. So now I'll just show you the bones. They can just break in half like this, so that just shows how soft they are and that it doesn't hurt them at all, and why the chickens can eat them. And because I'm making so much broth, I'm also trying to put some of it on the stove top and to reduce it a little so that it won't fill up so many jars, because I have so much bone broth now. And this is the bones from the smoked chickens, and I will also make broth out of them, and it gives it a whole other taste because of the smoke. That is really delicious. But otherwise I'll just do it the same way as with the fresh bones. And this is just a little glimpse from the last butchering day. We took and butchered the 64 chickens during 3 butchering days, and then I used about 4 or 5 other days to make all of the broth and to cut out all of the chickens. I parted 50 fresh chickens and the 11 that I smoked, so it was really tough. And this is just some easy lunch that day. It's the smoked chicken in a salad. And this is how the smoked chicken looks when it has only been into the saltwater brine. But it's really delicious as well. And that evening we just had this smoked chicken again, and with some roasted potatoes and onions. So that was this for this time, and I hope you enjoyed and maybe got a little inspired. And you can always go and follow us on Instagram. Bye bye.